Just to introduce myself quickly, I'm Damian Brooks. I've recently joined Sitecore about 3 months ago. I've joined the solutions architect team, so some of you might know me already. But hopefully if the presentation goes well, I'll get to know you a bit more as the other user groups come up. As a warning, I haven't got any Pokemon, I haven't got any demonstrations, so it's probably going to try my students. I'll have Pokemon in next time. But we'll do crowd participation as well. Okay, I'm going to talk about a theme of the recent user groups, which is around continuous integration. And extend that a little bit specifically around Azure and how you can use Azure to get on-demand test environments. So just to check, first of all, we've got mainly developers in tonight. Everyone? Are there any page editors and content authors? QA. QA, okay. Might be a bit dry for you, but hopefully you can understand what's going on there. Actually, you can tell people how easy it is to get an environment up and then leave one, and your IT tell you they can't do one. So, first of all, why would you want to do on-demand testing in the first place? You guys probably know me why you want to do that, you use it every day. But as a guess, if you've ever used automated UI testing through Selenium or whatever, I'm sure you've had browsers hanging, resources hanging on your build servers. You can offload that onto an on-demand test server. Just completely disposable once you don't have to worry about cleaning it up yourself into a build. Gives you a bit of agility as well. If you're using cloud, it makes sense to use that pay-as-you-compute service. So just pay for the time you're using your servers and get it up as you need it. It takes about 10 minutes to spin one up. So it's very agile. You can also scale out quite easily. It's trivial to add more servers into the farm if you need it. And you've got more flexibility as well. You can completely isolate your testing service from your build service, as I say. You don't have to worry about incompatibilities on your build server, any binaries that are just for your testing onto your build server. You can create as many different versions of your test environments as you want. So a nice thing to do would be to have different versions of Sitecore on your images. You can spin those up as you're testing, perhaps an upgrade or something like that. So it's easy to manage different versions and basically whatever you're doing a test so you can isolate it from anything else. Why Windows Azure, I should qualify that. Let's check, does anyone use Windows Azure at the moment? Anything to do with Sitecore? Yes? Okay. Well, hopefully this will spur you to at least have a look and see if it can be useful. But obviously, you don't have to use Azure. AWS does exactly the same thing, bar the PaaS stuff, obviously. But Azure would be a good choice. There's deep integration with Sitecore and Azure. Obviously, Azure does have the PaaS stuff, so things like SQL Azure that works really well with Sitecore. Get that going. Nice to have something that's PaaS, so you don't have to worry about all the infrastructure stuff. There's obvious support for .NET. Sitecore.NET makes sense to use a .NET-based cloud service. And Sitecore has an Azure module, which obviously no one uses at the moment, but you can go and explore that as well. That will help you deploy your content editing farms, multiple farms. You can scale up quite nicely with that module. So there are a few routes to doing this. I'm not sure if people have continuous integration environments going already. You've probably heard of things like team development server, TDS, etc. There's an open source group as well. We've got a contributor in the house, in Kevin Obi. I'll give a shout out to one of his tools. But there's 3 tools mainly to use in this 3 Sitecore specific tools, should I say, in the continuous integration process that are really useful. The first being Sitecore Unicorn, so that helps you serialize items that you create without having to actually go and serialize items instead of automatically. The Sitecore Courier, which then creates an update package between a target serialized folder and a comparison folder, so you could use an empty folder, for instance, to make sure every serialized item gets put into an update package. And Sitecore Ship, Kevin's own, which enables you to send an HTTP request to publish an update package, to install and publish an update package. And of course, you need all your standard CI tools as well. Your build server, which can be TeamCity, Bamboo, Cruise Control if you're a fashion deployment server. Actually, everyone's using Git and no one's using TFS. If you are shaking. You can use TFS if you want to. And of course you need Azure for this process at least. So just want to explain those tools a little bit more, just in case you haven't come across them. Has anyone come across them? Has anyone used these at all? Sitecore people don't count. No? Okay. Well, I'd definitely recommend you go and have a look at them, at least. You don't have to use them, but at least understand what they're there for, really handy. Sitecore Unicorn, as I say, that's a helper to serialize items. So you set that up to serialize items under a particular path. So as items are created by your developers, you don't have to worry about them telling them to serialize it afterwards in a particular folder. It will take care of that for you. And then you can obviously put your serialized items into source control, which is a definite recommended practice. Is anyone doing that? So serialized items into source control. Anyone else? Recommend doing that? Sitecore Courier then will take a serialized items folder and do a comparison with another folder, so your source and your targets. It'll create an update package with the difference. So you can only put the latest items into an update package if you like, or you can just do a comparison with an empty folder and just have every item into your update package. It's a really handy way of installing new items onto your test server, for instance, in this process, or whatever server you want to deploy to. You can run it as a post-bid process if you want, as a web runner as well, so you can go via a website, or you can set it up as part of this CI process, which is what we're doing today. And finally, don't quite explain this wrong, Kevin, but Sitecore Ship is essentially puts a HTTP web service into your Sitecore install, so you can issue requests to install an update package. The update package will create a Sitecore Courier. You can ask it then to publish that update package. All of this via HTTP request, so you don't have to log into your site, you don't have to go to a web page or anything like that. You just do all of this nicely via HTTP request, so you can see how that fits really nicely with your CI process. Very handy, very cool tool. So this is just a demonstration process. You don't have to do exactly like this. And then, as I say, you can use the open source stuff, where you can use TDS or perhaps any other things you want. But as an example, where my on-demand test environments come in, this is the process I use. I've set this up for a customer. It works quite well. So the first thing to set up is Sitecore Unicorn on your development servers. So decide which items you want to have serialized. Set up Sitecore Unicorn to do that, and then have those committed to source control. So Git or TFS or whatever you're using. Your build server will then be triggered. You should have a trigger. So that's done via perhaps a branch, a tag, or whatever you want to in your source control. So as the build kicks off, it's then responsible for creating your test servers. I'll get into how exactly to do that, or at least one method for doing that, and the build server will be responsible for doing that. Just say, by the way, if anyone has any questions, they're going to just pass on it. I'll be thankful for the break. You can then use your deployment server if you've separated deployment and build. So if you're using Autos Deploy, for example, on a server, that will deploy your code out to your test server. And then you run whatever test you want. So integration tests is there as an example. You can do UI testing, load testing, whatever you want to do. If somebody wants a UAT environment for a day just to demonstrate something, easy enough to do. It's the same principle. Finally then, you can dispose of those servers, push your changes up to production, and then Sitecore Ship comes in to push your Sitecore items to production. Does that make sense? Is it a high-level scenario? Yeah. Okay, so to actually create the environments for Azure, you need to have a healthy dose of PowerShell. Or at least that's one method. There is a RESTful API around Azure, which is probably a better method, to be honest, but everyone knows PowerShell. Pretty much all build servers come on PowerShell, so it's an easier option, if you ask me. And there's some nice extension to Windows Azure with PowerShell as well, so easy support, easy to get up and running. If you want to manage your on-demand test servers, then you need to remotely manage them, and WinRM is the tool to do that. And if you're going to do that, you need a couple of things through Azure. You need a publish settings file, which is essentially a security certificate. Allows you to configure your environments and set up your infrastructure, etc. If you're using WinRM, you need to set up a certificate on the target set to allow you to do it. Again, there's loads of documentation out there, and that's very easy to do, so I won't explain that too much. In terms of having the infrastructure on Azure in the first place, the way to do it, set up a new Azure VM, configure whatever you want on that VM. So install Sitecore onto it, a vanilla Sitecore install, whatever version you need. Stick all the binaries you need to get that working. You need to log into the VM and run sysprep. Most likely will be aware of sysprep. Essentially, it's just an executable you run. It takes about 10 minutes. Just configures your environment so it can be captured as an image. And then you use Azure portal as the capture button. You can then capture that VM as an image. Essentially what that means is that you just create snapshots. Although that is a snapshot, so you just create new VMs from that snapshot. So every time you create your online test service, essentially a copy of that image. So you do all that work up front. You can then get rid of the VM. You don't need that copy of your image. That's what will be thrown up through the process. So to do that, I know that's a lot of PowerShell to read at like 10 past 9 at night. It's actually really simple to get a new VM going. The bulk at the bottom there, that's just configuration. Using the last thing, they're just setting up endpoints. So endpoints are essentially configuring the firewall for that particular VM. In this instance, I need HTTP file to what data needs to go, obviously. Octo tentacle, it's the Octopus deploy tentacle, so that's the port that talks through. And WinRM talks through a particular port as well, it's 5985. It's quite simple, it's just copy and paste to get those ports running. The most important thing with this one, if you're going to use WinRM, there's a little flag when you do the Azure provision config, that flag at the end there, which is on the second line. And just make sure that WinRM is enabled on that server that you throw up. Is then available to start controlling remote. It's that easy, it's not just to do. So what is WinRM? How do you use it? Say it's just a method of being able to control a Windows server remotely. Through PowerShell, what it means is you can throw PowerShell commands at that server. The method to do that is essentially wrap those into a variable. There's an invoke command PowerShell, and you just throw that script block at it, and it will run as if it were being run locally. So you can do whatever you want. In this instance, what I'm doing is setting up the Octopus deploy tentacle service to run. So once the VM's up, I execute this PowerShell. The service will then get up and running onto the test server, the demand server, and then Octopus deploy will be ready to deploy onto that server. It's a really simple way of just, as I say, controlling remotely. You don't have to then worry about having PowerShell on the actual server itself. You can do that all through the server. So fitting that all together, that's what my Team City build looks like. So there's quite a lot of PowerShell steps. Once quite a lot of PowerShell involved, you go the easy route. But essentially all that does, as you typically would through your build server, build Sitecore up, run your unit testing, and then the on-demand parts there that create the test VM. So that was the first PowerShell script I showed you. What that does is throw that test VM. It will wait until that's ready. It will then carry on the MS build, will build a package and deploy it via Octopus deploy to that test server. And then you can deploy to your production via Sitecore ship and your Octopus deploy again. You might notice in that example there's actually nothing happening with the demand test server there. It's because it's just an example. I can think of anything to do once it's up and running, but they have a separate step to trigger your Selenium tests or to do your load testing, whatever you wanted to do with that server. So I did get a question. A customer wanted to use this process to get UAT environments up on demand. So if they wanted to demonstrate a particular build of their project to perhaps a customer, or if they wanted to do a sprint demo or something like that, they wanted to isolate that. How do you get your live content from your live site onto the actual on-demand site? So it's exactly the same, to be honest, it's just in reverse. You can put the Sitecore unicorn onto your production box, serialize your items onto a shared folder, create the update package via Sitecore carrier, and then just send that to your command tester, so it's going to install all the content items. That have already been built with all the development items from the process we just went through, so bang, all automated, complete replica of production. So it's not necessarily what I'd recommend doing. Be aware that when you're doing cycle unicorn production, obviously there is obviously it's going to serialize items every time the content was creating things. So if you're just aware of that, there's a really easy way of getting complete replica production up and running at the touch of a button.
Which cycle license would you use for the instances? If you use a partner license or the cloud have to pay for it?
That's a good question. I don't know if there are any license experts in it that can answer that. I'm not too sure.
Because it could be an enormous jump in cost if the client needs to foot the bill.
I think you'd use, if it was part of your development process, you could use your partner license. That's the one that's standard to be used. If you were using it to actually present content to your customer, then perhaps there's
We have a specific license model for Azure, and I think there's something built in where you can get 31 days boost. So if you know that you're going to get a peak of visitors at that time, I'm not sure if it's 31 days or basically a month where you can boost it, or it's 31 individual days where you can boost it. I'll have to have a look into that, but there's a specific Azure licensing model, but it works on the same way pretty much as a typical cycle licensing, where it's a per server base. So if you spin up another couple of servers, you have to pay on that basis. So it's pretty much the same.
and that is it. As I said, so we'll stop talking through that. Questions? That's a good one. That's one.
A question.
Sure.
Is this, are all these tools free?
The open source ones are, so Unicorn Courier and Ship, all open source.
They're like so if you don't want to buy TDS licenses, that's kind of an alternative, or is it completely different?
Yes, it's an alternative, an open source alternative. The Team City Optimus Deploy, obviously that's a separate thing, you need that anyway. And there's other tools, I think they're open source built, so things like that. Yeah, there's only the Cycle Ship, Unicorn and Carrier, that's all free. It's an alternative to other software.
What does the features of Cycle Courier then compare to TDS? Because I've used TDS for a few years and it's not really by any means. I know it's not quite exactly related to your presentation, but
It's fine. I must admit I haven't used TDS, so I'm not entirely aware of all the features, but if you're just looking for a way to stick your serialized items into